In the twilight years of the Roman Republic, the city of Rome basked in the glory of its unprecedented victories. From the smoldering ruins of Carthage to the subdued splendor of Macedonian palaces, Roman legions marched victorious, their banners fluttering in the Mediterranean breeze. Yet beneath this majestic facade, the Republic was riddled with silent fractures, each growing deeper with every passing victory. Central to Rome's growing power and, paradoxically, its internal decay were the reforms of one man, Gaius Marius. Known initially for his military brilliance and unshakable resolve, Marius had sought solutions to Rome's chronic manpower shortage, exacerbated by decades of relentless warfare. His answer was both simple and revolutionary: abandon the traditional property requirements and open the legions to Rome's landless masses. At first glance, Marius's reforms appeared modest: a professional standardization of training, consistent unit structures, and improved equipment. But collectively, these changes redefined the very essence of Rome's military. Legionaries no longer fought solely as citizens bound by patriotic duty. They fought as professionals, tied by camaraderie, shared hardship, and the promise of material reward. This shift proved profound. Gone were the days of citizen farmers like the legendary Cincinnatus, who left his plow only briefly to defend Rome. Those old soldiers had a tangible stake in Rome's survival and stability. Marching against Rome itself would have been inconceivable. But Marius's new soldiers, drawn from the impoverished Capite Censi, saw military service as an avenue out of poverty, and loyalty became tied more closely to commanders who promised wealth and land, rather than to the distant abstraction of the Republic itself. Marius himself was unaware, or perhaps unwilling to acknowledge, the darker implications of his reforms. Content with the immediate results, he failed to grasp how they would reshape Rome's destiny. But others would see clearly the opportunities these reforms presented. One such man was Lucius Cornelius Sulla, once a loyal subordinate of Marius, now his bitter rival. The Republic was already teetering when Sulla, seizing upon political betrayal and personal insult, marched 6 legions upon Rome, a shocking breach of tradition that had held sacred since Rome's founding. These were no ordinary soldiers. They were veterans of Marius's reformed legions, men whose loyalty lay firmly with their commander rather than with the Republic. Rome trembled at their approach, the very idea of soldiers turning against their city, a horrifying novelty. Yet Sulla was not blind to the destruction he unleashed. Upon his victory, he desperately tried to mend the cracks he had widened. He established strict laws to prevent future generals from emulating his actions and restored power to a strengthened Senate. He retired his dictatorship voluntarily, hoping these measures would restore the Republic's stability. But rather than repair, Sulla's actions demonstrated to other ambitious commanders the terrifying potential of using armies as personal instruments of power. Parallel to these military upheavals was a quiet social tragedy unfolding across Italy. Rome's victories had brought unimaginable wealth, but it flowed disproportionately to a privileged few. The modest farms, once the backbone of Rome's citizen army, were replaced by sprawling, slave-run estates operated for profit rather than civic virtue. Displaced farmers poured into Rome, swelling the ranks of the Capite Censi, those who counted only their heads as property. Attempts at reform were fiercely opposed. Decades before Marius, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus had sought modest changes to redistribute land back to citizen farmers, only to be violently suppressed by an entrenched aristocracy determined to maintain their privileges. Their brutal deaths signaled a terrifying new reality. Political violence had entered Rome. permanently staining the once sacred political arena. Later, Marcus Livius Drusus the Younger also attempted reforms, including granting citizenship to Rome's Italian allies to stabilize the Republic. His mysterious assassination sparked the devastating social war, ultimately forcing Rome to extend citizenship to its allies, though at enormous cost. By now, the Republic was trapped in a cycle of violence and stagnation. Soldiers returning from prolonged foreign campaigns found their promised lands withheld by a Senate unwilling to sacrifice profitable plantations for veterans' pensions. Bitter and disillusioned, these legionaries increasingly saw their commanders, not Rome's leaders, as their true benefactors. This simmering tension exploded again during the Catiline conspiracy, where disaffected veterans joined a desperate bid to seize power in Rome. Though the conspiracy was thwarted, it revealed how fragile Rome's stability had become, highlighting the Republic's dangerous vulnerability to ambitious demagogues and desperate soldiers alike. Into this volatile atmosphere stepped Gaius Julius Caesar, whose rise marked the final descent into irreversible decline for the Republic. Backed by his triumvirate allies, Pompey and Crassus, Caesar leveraged the loyalty of his legions, forged in the crucible of Gaul, to march once more upon Rome. Thus, what began as tactical reforms by Marius spiraled dramatically into the Republic's undoing. Soldiers, once the Republic's defenders, had become its greatest threat. Their allegiance shifted irrevocably from state to commander, setting a perilous precedent. The Senate's refusal to adapt to changing social realities left Rome vulnerable, each crisis reinforcing a lethal pattern of ambition, betrayal, and bloodshed. By the time Caesar crossed the Rubicon, the Republic was beyond saving, fractured by internal divisions and haunted by ghosts of reforms and revolutions past. The ideals of civic virtue and collective sacrifice were memories, overshadowed by the stark reality of armies loyal only to their commanders. Rome's transformation from republic to empire was complete, a cautionary tale of unintended consequences, where measures designed to strengthen ultimately undermined, leaving a once mighty state forever altered.